Daniel Reyes sat quietly among diplomats from worlds he had only read about in training files. The Galactic Assembly Hall was larger than anything he had ever seen, its curved ceiling filled with shifting lights that changed color depending on who spoke. Rows of alien delegates surrounded him, each species carrying its own presence. Some were tall and elegant, others short and heavy, some covered in fine scales or smooth, glowing skin. The atmosphere felt calm on the surface, but Daniel sensed tension hiding underneath. Humanity was still new to the galactic stage. Only a few years had passed since humans had been accepted into the wider community of intelligent species. Many civilizations still watched humans with curiosity and caution. Humans were known for adaptability and creativity, but also for unpredictability. Daniel had heard whispers that some species considered humanity too emotional, too stubborn, or too reckless. He adjusted the small emblem on his uniform, the symbol of Earth's exploration coalition. He was not a warrior or a politician by nature. He had started his career as an engineer, someone who solved problems quietly behind the scenes. Yet today he sat among royalty and powerful leaders, sent as a representative because humans believed in learning through direct experience. At the center of the hall stood Queen Althera of the Veyrani. Her people were ancient, respected, and slightly feared. The Veyrani had a reputation for discipline and strict traditions that rarely changed. Their civilization had survived for thousands of years by valuing order above all else. Beside the queen stood Princess Elira. Daniel noticed her immediately, not because of beauty or status, but because of how she carried herself. She stood still, her posture calm and balanced, eyes moving carefully across the room. She watched everything, without reacting too strongly, as if measuring every detail. There was intelligence in her gaze, but also something heavier, something like quiet loneliness. The event had been announced as a celebration of unity. Many had assumed it would be another diplomatic ceremony filled with speeches and formal agreements. But as the gathering began, it became clear that something different was happening. Queen Althera spoke with a strong, steady voice that filled the hall without effort. She explained that her people sought a marriage alliance for the princess, a union meant to strengthen cooperation between species. Such alliances were common among older civilizations. They symbolized trust and created bonds stronger than simple treaties. One by one, representatives approached the platform. Each offered respectful words. Each praised the princess's achievements, but each also declined. Some spoke about existing obligations. Others mentioned cultural differences or political complications. A few avoided clear explanations entirely. Daniel watched the queen carefully. At first, she maintained perfect control. Her expression remained calm, almost unreadable. But as more delegates stepped back without accepting the proposal, small signs of strain appeared in her posture. The princess did not move. She accepted every refusal with quiet dignity, but Daniel sensed something deeper beneath her calm surface. Whispers began spreading through the audience. He heard fragments of rumors. Some said Elira was too strong-willed. Others claimed she was difficult to work with. A few believed she had rejected previous alliances because she refused to follow traditional expectations. Daniel frowned slightly. Humans had experienced similar misunderstandings many times. Often, people feared those who refused to fit simple roles. Another delegate stepped forward, offered kind words, and declined. The silence afterward felt heavy. Finally, Queen Althera's composure broke. Her voice rose louder than before, filled with emotion that shocked the entire hall. "No one wants my daughter as a wife!" The words echoed against the curved walls. Conversation stopped instantly. Delegates stared at the queen in surprise. Monarchs rarely showed such vulnerability in public. Daniel felt the weight of the moment settle across the room. It was no longer just a political ceremony. It had become deeply personal. The princess turned slightly toward her mother, clearly surprised by the outburst, but she said nothing. Her expression remained calm, though Daniel noticed a brief tightening around her eyes. No one moved. No one spoke. The silence stretched so long that it began to feel uncomfortable. Daniel looked around. Some delegates avoided eye contact. Others whispered quietly among themselves. A few watched with cold curiosity. He felt something twist inside his chest. Humans valued courage, not only in battle, but in moments of emotional risk. Watching a leader stand exposed while everyone stayed silent felt wrong to him. He studied the princess again. She did not look angry or embarrassed. Instead, she seemed tired, as if she had expected this outcome long before the event began. Why had everyone refused? He replayed the rumors in his mind. A strong personality, independent thinking, strategic mind. These were qualities humans respected. He realized that perhaps the problem was not the princess herself, but the expectations others placed on her. Another long moment passed. Still, no one stepped forward. Daniel's heart began to beat faster. He had not planned to act today. His role was simply to observe and report. Humanity was still building relationships and avoiding risky commitments, but something about the situation felt important. He remembered humanity's early years among the stars. Many species had underestimated humans, assuming they would fail or remain secondary participants in galactic affairs. Humans had earned respect not through power alone, but through willingness to take risks others avoided. He took a slow breath. Standing would change everything. It would attract attention and possibly create political complications. His superiors might question his decision, but sitting quietly felt worse. Before he could overthink further, he rose from his seat. The movement drew immediate attention. Heads turned toward him from every direction. Some delegates seemed confused. Others, curious. The human representative walking toward the center platform felt almost unreal. Daniel felt nervous, but he walked steadily, keeping his posture calm. He stopped at a respectful distance from the Queen and bowed slightly, following formal protocol. The Queen watched him carefully, her expression guarded. Princess Elira turned her gaze toward him as well. Her eyes held sharp intelligence, as if analyzing every detail about him. Daniel spoke clearly, his voice steady despite the weight of hundreds of eyes watching him. He acknowledged the honor of the Vayrani people and expressed respect for their traditions. He explained that humanity valued courage, honesty, and partnership. Murmurs spread across the audience. Some delegates seemed amused. Others looked concerned. He continued, choosing his words carefully. He said that strength could be intimidating, but it could also be inspiring. Sometimes, he added, the qualities others feared were the same qualities that made someone extraordinary. The princess studied him silently. Daniel felt the tension rising, but he remained calm. He knew that humans often surprised others by seeing possibilities where others saw problems. He paused briefly before speaking the words that would change everything. He volunteered himself. Gasps filled the hall. A human offering to form a royal alliance with an ancient species was something no one had expected. The Queen's eyes narrowed slightly, not in anger, but in deep evaluation. The princess tilted her head, clearly intrigued but cautious. The silence returned, heavier than before. Daniel realized there was no turning back now. The silence after Daniel's words felt heavier than before, as if the entire galactic assembly hall had stopped breathing. Every delegate watched him with intense curiosity. Some looked amused, others doubtful, and a few clearly believed he had made a mistake. Queen Althera studied him without speaking. Her eyes were sharp, searching for weakness or hidden intention. She had ruled for centuries, and she had learned to recognize ambition and deception quickly. Yet the human standing before her seemed calm, almost ordinary, except for the quiet determination in his posture. Princess Elira's gaze was different. She did not look shocked or offended. Instead, she appeared deeply interested, as though she had encountered a puzzle she wanted to understand. Finally, the Queen spoke. Her voice returned to its controlled, regal tone, though traces of earlier emotion remained beneath the surface. She asked Daniel why he believed he was worthy of stepping forward when so many powerful figures had declined. The question was not cruel, but it carried weight. Daniel took a slow breath. He explained that he did not believe himself superior to anyone in the room. He simply saw the situation differently. From his perspective, the refusals were not signs that the princess lacked value. Instead, they showed that many feared stepping into something unfamiliar. Whispers spread through the audience again. A tall delegate from a distant system shook their head slightly, clearly unconvinced. Another leaned forward with interest, watching the exchange carefully. The princess stepped forward slightly, her presence calm but strong. She addressed Daniel directly. Her voice was clear, intelligent, and measured. She asked whether he understood what he was offering. A royal alliance was not a symbolic gesture. It would tie him to Vayrani culture, responsibility, and expectations. Daniel nodded. He admitted that he could not fully understand yet, because learning required experience. But he believed that respect and communication could bridge any difference. Some delegates exchanged skeptical glances. Elira continued her questions. She asked why he chose to act when others remained silent. She wanted to know whether he felt sympathy or whether he sought recognition. Daniel answered honestly. He said he acted because silence felt wrong. He did not see someone unwanted. He saw someone misunderstood. The princess did not respond immediately. She studied him carefully, as though measuring the truth behind his words. Queen Althera raised one hand, signaling for quiet. She announced that Vayrani tradition required testing before any alliance could be accepted. These tests were not about power or strength, but about character, compatibility, and understanding. Daniel agreed without hesitation. The hall reacted with renewed interest. Trials were rare public events, especially involving outsiders. Many delegates leaned forward, eager to watch what would happen next. The Queen explained that the first stage would begin immediately. A circular platform rose slowly from the center of the floor, glowing softly with light. The air changed slightly, signaling activation of advanced technology. The trial would simulate different scenarios to evaluate decision-making and cooperation. Daniel stepped onto the platform beside Princess Elira. Up close, he noticed small details he had missed before. Her expression remained calm, but her eyes held intensity. She looked at him not as a stranger or potential partner, but as someone under examination. The simulation began. The environment around them shifted, transforming into a digital landscape representing a diplomatic crisis. Multiple factions argued over limited resources, and tension threatened to break into conflict. Elira immediately began analyzing the situation, her mind moving quickly. She suggested strategic solutions with precise logic. Daniel listened carefully. Instead of interrupting or competing, he asked questions that helped clarify goals and priorities. He proposed creative compromises that allowed different sides to feel heard. Observers watched with surprise. Many expected the human to struggle with Vayrani-level strategy, but he adapted quickly, offering unexpected perspectives. The simulation adjusted, increasing complexity. Unexpected problems appeared. Communication systems failed. Emotional responses from simulated characters created unpredictable obstacles. Daniel's experience with diverse human cultures helped him navigate the chaos. He focused on empathy as much as logic, addressing fears and misunderstandings instead of forcing quick decisions. Elira noticed this immediately. She had worked with many brilliant minds, but few balanced logic and emotional awareness so naturally. The scenario ended with a successful resolution that satisfied all parties. The platform dimmed briefly, signaling completion of the first stage. Murmurs filled the hall again, this time mixed with curiosity rather than doubt. The Queen observed silently, her expression thoughtful. The second trial began without delay. This time, the simulation focused on cultural understanding. Images of Vayrani traditions appeared around them, rituals, ceremonies, and historical events that defined their identity. Daniel was asked to respond to situations that required respect for unfamiliar customs. He approached each scenario carefully, asking questions rather than making assumptions. He admitted when he did not know something and expressed willingness to learn. Some delegates appeared surprised by his humility. Many species viewed uncertainty as weakness, but the Vayrani valued honesty. Elira tested him deliberately, presenting complex moral dilemmas that required balancing tradition with innovation. Daniel responded thoughtfully, showing that he respected heritage while also believing growth was necessary. The princess began to feel something unexpected: comfort. She had grown used to people trying to impress or control her. Daniel did neither. He simply engaged honestly. Now, the third stage introduced a simulated emergency. A fictional starship faced a crisis, forcing quick decisions under pressure. Systems failed, crew members panicked, and time ran out quickly. Elira moved into command naturally, issuing clear instructions. Daniel followed her lead without hesitation, supporting her decisions while suggesting alternative solutions when necessary. Instead of competing for authority, he strengthened her leadership. The observers noticed this clearly. Many species struggled with shared leadership, but the humans seemed comfortable working as part of a team. The simulation ended successfully. Again, the platform lowered slowly, returning them to the assembly hall. Queen Althera remained silent for a long moment. Finally, she addressed the audience. She acknowledged that the human had shown adaptability, respect, and cooperation. However, she emphasized that trials were not only about performance, but about intention. She turned to her daughter. Elira hesitated briefly before speaking. She admitted that she had expected arrogance or hidden motives. Instead, she had encountered patience and curiosity. The Queen's gaze returned to Daniel. She announced that one final stage remained, not a test of skill, but a conversation. She asked Daniel a simple but powerful question. What did he truly seek from this alliance? Daniel thought carefully before answering. He said he did not seek status or recognition. He wanted connection, a chance to build something meaningful across cultures. Humanity believed progress came from cooperation, especially between those who seemed different at first. The Queen listened closely. Elira watched him, searching for any sign of doubt or hesitation. She found none. The tension in the hall shifted subtly. What began as skepticism slowly transformed into curiosity and even respect. For the first time since the event began, the Queen allowed a faint smile to appear. The trials were not finished yet, but something important had already changed. Humanity, once considered outsiders, had begun to redefine expectations simply by stepping forward when no one else did. The room was quieter than ever, the delegates still processing what had happened so far. Daniel Reyes stood beside Princess Elira, feeling the weight of the moment pressing on him. Every eye was on them. Every whisper carried curiosity or doubt, and Daniel knew the final stage would reveal whether he was truly ready to earn the trust of one of the oldest and most respected civilizations in the galaxy. Queen Althera's expression was calm but critical, her gaze sharp. She had seen many ambitious individuals throughout her centuries of leadership, but few had approached her daughter without fear or calculation. Daniel's honesty and courage had caught her attention. Still, the final trial would require more than words. It would demand understanding, wisdom, and the ability to act under pressure. The final stage began with a simple instruction. A scenario would be created to test leadership, empathy, and adaptability. The simulation unfolded as a dynamic environment resembling a small colony on the icy planet of Veyra Prime, where the princess often trained her fleet. Citizens were stranded during a severe storm. Energy systems had failed, and communication channels were unreliable. Every decision could lead to success or failure, and every action would be observed by the delegates and recorded for later evaluation. Daniel surveyed the simulation carefully. Humans were trained to assess risk quickly and creatively. a skill that had helped humanity survive in unpredictable environments. He noticed Elira immediately assuming control, organizing groups to handle different tasks, ensuring that every citizen's needs were addressed. Her methodical approach impressed him. But Daniel also saw a few overlooked details. People struggling to reach shelters, minor injuries that could worsen if not attended, and conflicts rising from fear and confusion. He stepped forward, speaking calmly. "I can help stabilize the energy systems and organize emergency supplies," he suggested. "If we split responsibilities, we can ensure no one is left behind." Many had tried to impress her with grand gestures or bold plans, but Daniel simply observed, understood, and offered practical solutions. She nodded slightly, signaling approval, and delegated part of the rescue effort to him. As the simulation progressed, Daniel worked alongside Elira seamlessly. He repaired critical energy systems using improvisation and logic, methods unfamiliar to the Veyrani delegates but surprisingly effective. Citizens moved more efficiently, and injuries were attended to promptly. The princess noticed that Daniel's human methods, though unconventional, complemented her disciplined strategies perfectly. The delegates murmured among themselves, some skeptically, others openly intrigued. Several species had initially assumed that humans lacked experience or the discipline to succeed in such high-pressure scenarios, but Daniel's actions defied their expectations. His calm demeanor, quick thinking, and willingness to cooperate highlighted qualities that no alien delegation had predicted. Meanwhile, Elira observed him closely. She had led many simulations before and expected participants to challenge her authority, act rashly, or seek attention. Daniel did none of these. He acted with integrity, supporting her decisions, yet contributing ideas that improved outcomes. For the first time, she considered the possibility that a human could match her in both intelligence and character. The scenario introduced a new challenge. A group of stranded citizens had become separated due to an avalanche triggered by the storm. Quick decisions were necessary to prevent panic and ensure safety. Daniel suggested splitting teams, strategically and personally led one group through a treacherous route. His careful instructions and encouragement kept the group calm and focused. The princess's team rescued the other citizens simultaneously, demonstrating that their combined leadership produced results no single approach could achieve. The delegates leaned forward in fascination. It was clear now that the human and the princess worked in harmony, balancing each other's strengths. Some species had never witnessed such collaboration, especially between a human and a Veyrani royal. The final challenge of the simulation involved an unexpected moral dilemma. A small group of citizens demanded to leave the safety of the shelters to search for missing resources, arguing that survival depended on retrieving them immediately. Elira was prepared to enforce protocol strictly, ensuring order and minimizing risk. Daniel stepped forward, speaking respectfully but firmly. "We must listen to them," he said. "Their knowledge and determination can help. If we balance caution with trust, we can reduce risk and empower them to help the group survive." Many advisors would have dismissed such an approach as reckless. Daniel's willingness to weigh both caution and trust impressed her. Together, they crafted a plan that allowed the volunteers to act safely, mitigating danger while gaining necessary resources. The citizens successfully returned, morale remained high, and the crisis was resolved efficiently. Queen Althera and the delegates observed the scenario unfold with growing respect. The humans' choices revealed not only courage and intelligence, but also an understanding of leadership that many experienced species lacked. Humanity's reputation as unpredictable had often been used as a criticism, yet here it was a strength. Adaptability, empathy, and creativity combined to produce results beyond expectation. When the simulation ended, the assembly hall returned to normal. The platform lowered slowly, signaling the trial's conclusion. Citizens in the simulation had been saved, systems repaired, and order restored. The audience waited in tense silence, wondering what the queen would decide. Princess Elira finally spoke. She addressed Daniel directly, her voice calm and analytical. "You did not seek to control or impress. You observed, adapted, and acted with understanding. Many others would have acted impulsively, or sought attention. You did not? Her gaze softened slightly, a hint of approval evident. Daniel bowed respectfully. I only acted because it was the right thing to do, he said. I wanted to help, not to gain favor or status. The Queen stood, her expression unreadable for a moment. Then she turned to address the assembly. The trials are complete, she announced. Few have shown courage, wisdom, and integrity in equal measure. This human has demonstrated that humanity possesses qualities that surpass expectation. Observers who doubted must reconsider their assumptions. Murmurs filled the hall again, this time tinged with surprise and admiration. Some delegates whispered excitedly, noting that Daniel had acted decisively, yet with respect, balancing human initiative with collaboration. Others acknowledged silently that Virani traditions had prepared them to respect achievement, regardless of origin. Elira remained focused, analyzing Daniel's actions further. She realized that his willingness to step forward, his calm confidence, and his ability to combine practical solutions with empathy reflected traits she had long valued but seldom encountered in potential allies or suitors. He did not seek dominance or control. He sought partnership. The Queen gestured for quiet and turned to her daughter. Elira, she said, the decision is yours. You have observed the human, tested him, and witnessed his actions. You know what the trials revealed. The choice must be yours alone. A hush fell over the room. Delegates leaned forward, eager to see the princess's reaction. Many had assumed Elira would reject the human, citing tradition or status differences. Now, the outcome was uncertain. Elira stepped forward, taking a deep breath. She addressed the assembly clearly. I have seen the human act with courage, wisdom, and respect. He did not seek to dominate or control me. He acted with integrity, adaptability, and understanding. For the first time, I feel that an alliance can be based on mutual respect, not fear or expectation.
Gasps echoed around the assembly.
The Queen allowed herself a small smile. Delegates whispered among themselves, astonished at the princess's reasoning. Many began to reevaluate their previous assumptions about humans. Elira continued, turning to Daniel. I accept your alliance proposal, not as a formality or requirement, but as a choice. Together, we will work to create understanding, progress, and respect between our peoples. Daniel felt a mix of relief and pride. He had stepped forward when others stayed silent, taking a risk that could have ended badly. Yet now, he stood beside Elira, a human acknowledged as a partner by one of the galaxy's oldest and most respected species. The assembly erupted in applause. Delegates from other civilizations slowly began to recognize the significance of the moment. Humanity's reputation had shifted in a single day. A species often underestimated for its youth and inexperience had proven its ability to act with intelligence, courage, and empathy. Queen Althira stepped forward, placing a hand on Elira's shoulder. You have both demonstrated the qualities that define true leadership, she said. This union is not only a personal choice but a symbol of what can be achieved when courage, respect, and wisdom guide action. Elira nodded, her eyes meeting Daniel's. She saw honesty and determination, strength and humility. It was a partnership built on understanding, not tradition or pressure. Daniel realized that this was more than a personal victory. It was an opportunity to redefine humanity's place in the galaxy, to show that intelligence combined with empathy could surpass expectations, and that courage often meant stepping forward when everyone else stayed silent. As the ceremony concluded, delegates began to discuss possibilities for new alliances, new collaborations, and new understandings between species. The story of the human who stood up for what he believed in, the human who saw potential where others saw fear, would spread quickly across star systems. Elira and Daniel remained together at the center of the hall, not as a symbol of tradition, but as living proof that partnership, respect, and courage could create change. Every eye in the room reflected admiration, curiosity, and cautious hope for the future. Humans had proven that sometimes the most unlikely voice in the room could change everything. The galaxy would remember this day. The hall buzzed with anticipation as the formalities of the trial came to an end. Daniel Reyes stood beside Princess Elira, feeling a mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration. The trials had tested him in ways he had never imagined, stretching his mind, patience, and courage. He had faced complex simulations, moral dilemmas, and challenges that forced him to think quickly under pressure. Yet the final part of this journey was not a test of skills or strategy. It was a test of what came next, how two very different beings could shape the future together. Queen Althera's gaze swept across the assembly. The room was filled with delegates from dozens of star systems. Some of the most respected species in the galaxy had been watching every moment of the trials, noting Daniel's every action and decision. Many had entered the hall, assuming humans were young, inexperienced, and too emotional to be taken seriously. Now, the energy in the room had shifted. Curiosity and cautious admiration replaced skepticism. "Today," the Queen began, her voice carrying across the vast chamber, "we have witnessed something rare. We have witnessed courage, wisdom, and respect in combination. One must ask, what is the meaning of leadership, and what is the purpose of unity in our galaxy?" Daniel stood quietly, aware that every word would be scrutinized. He had learned long ago that in diplomacy, silence could speak as loudly as speech. Elira remained calm, her expression unreadable to most. Yet Daniel could see the faint flicker of thought behind her eyes. She was evaluating him once more, not for tests or protocols, but for something far more meaningful. Trust.
The Queen continued.
It is easy to follow tradition, to act according to expectation. But true progress is found in the courage to act wisely, honestly, and without fear. Today, this human has proven that partnership is more valuable than pride or status. The question now is, what will the future hold? A murmur rippled through the audience. Humans rarely received such acknowledgement, especially in a public ceremony filled with ancient species. Daniel could feel eyes turning toward him with a mixture of wonder and curiosity. Some whispered among themselves, questioning what this would mean for interstellar relations. Others were silent, reflecting on the surprising abilities of a species they had underestimated. Elira finally spoke, her voice clear and commanding. "I have considered what I have witnessed. I have seen how this human reacts under pressure, how he navigates complex problems, and how he respects others while offering innovative solutions. I have seen patience, courage, and intelligence. These are not qualities often found in one being, let alone a human." She paused, scanning the room. "Our galaxy is filled with civilizations that have long histories and deep traditions. Many fear change, and many fear challenge. But I see potential. I see the possibility of partnership that is based not on fear, protocol, or manipulation, but on understanding and trust." Daniel's heart pounded in his chest. He had come to this assembly as a representative of humanity, expecting to observe and report. Yet now he stood at the center of history, recognized by one of the galaxy's oldest species for the qualities humans had long relied upon: courage, empathy, and adaptability. Elira turned to him directly.
"I choose to accept your proposal, Daniel Reyes."
Not as a matter of duty, not as a requirement of tradition, but as a deliberate decision based on what I have seen and experienced. You have demonstrated qualities that I value deeply. Together, we can face challenges that neither of us could face alone. The declaration sent a wave of surprise through the assembly. Delegates leaned forward, whispering urgently. Some could not believe the audacity of the human or the wisdom of the princess. Others saw in this choice an opportunity to reshape alliances and rethink assumptions about the young human species. Queen Althera smiled faintly. Her eyes shone with pride, relief, and recognition. She stepped closer to Elira and Daniel, placing a hand on her daughter's shoulder. "You have both demonstrated what it means to lead with integrity. This decision reflects courage, wisdom, and insight. It is not without risk, but it is the path of greatness. Daniel felt a sense of calm wash over him. He had been tested in ways he could never have imagined, but the outcome was clear. Trust and courage had triumphed over fear and expectation. He glanced at Elira, noticing the subtle strength behind her calm exterior. She was not simply a princess bound by tradition. She was a leader, a strategist, and someone who valued intelligence, honesty, and partnership. The Queen continued, addressing the audience. Let this be a lesson to all. Strength is not merely in power, status, or fear. Strength is found in courage, in integrity, and in the willingness to step forward when others remain silent. Today, a human has reminded us of these truths. May all species remember this lesson. The room erupted in applause, though some delegates remained stunned into silence. Daniel and Elira bowed slightly, acknowledging the recognition, but remaining focused on each other. This was not about glory or attention. This was about partnership, trust, and the promise of what could be achieved together. In the hours that followed, the assembly continued with formalities, but the tone had shifted completely. Conversations, once dominated by protocol and tradition, now explored possibilities, collaborations, and strategies for unity. Delegates who had doubted humanity began to reassess their assumptions. Some openly praised Daniel's courage and wisdom, while others studied him quietly, recognizing that the human species possessed traits that could influence the galaxy in unexpected ways. Elira and Daniel walked together through the assembly hall after the ceremony. The massive space shimmered with lights reflecting off polished surfaces, and the delegates' discussions created a soft hum in the background. Elira's voice was calm, but Daniel could hear curiosity and reflection in her tone. You handled the trials well, she said.
You did not act out of fear or expectation. You acted logically, with empathy, and with courage.
That is rare. Daniel smiled faintly.
I only did what I could. I did not want to fail you or your people.
I just acted as I believed humans should. Honestly and with respect. Elira considered him for a long moment. Many would have tried to impress or dominate. You did neither. That is why I trust you. The words settled over Daniel like a quiet affirmation. He had stepped forward when others stayed silent, risking embarrassment and failure. Yet now, standing beside Elira, he understood that courage and integrity could change perception, influence decisions, and open doors that fear and tradition had kept closed for centuries. As they moved through the hall, delegates approached them, offering congratulations, questions, and even requests for collaboration. Daniel listened politely, aware that his actions had consequences far beyond personal recognition. Humanity's reputation had shifted. What had begun as a moment of courage had grown into an opportunity to show that humans were capable of strategic thought, empathy, and resilience on a galactic scale. Elira guided him to a quiet observation deck overlooking the city below. The Vayrani capital stretched into the distance, towers rising through clouds of mist and light. The city seemed alive with movement, energy, and the promise of growth. She spoke softly. The galaxy often underestimates the young, the untested, and the unfamiliar, she said. Humans have been underestimated many times. Today you prove that courage, insight, and integrity can overcome doubt and expectation. Daniel gazed at the horizon, feeling the weight of her words. It is not just me, he said. It is humanity! We learn quickly! We adapt. We act when others hesitate.
That is who we are. Elira nodded.
And now we have a choice. Together, we can shape the future, not just for ourselves, but for many worlds. But it will require courage, trust, and persistence. Daniel felt a surge of determination. I am ready, he said simply. Whatever challenges come next, I will face them with honesty, respect, and effort. Not because I fear failure, but because I believe in partnership, in understanding, and in doing what is right." Alira smiled faintly, the first genuine smile Daniel had seen from her all day. It was quiet, subtle, yet filled with meaning.
"Then we begin," she said.
The next days were filled with preparation, planning, and communication. Delegates from multiple worlds sought insight into this unusual alliance. Humans and Veyrani scientists collaborated, blending methods, knowledge, and perspectives to address shared challenges. The trials had been a demonstration, but the real work was only beginning. Daniel found himself deeply involved in every aspect. He worked with engineers to integrate human technology with Veyrani systems, advised leaders on strategies that balanced risk and innovation, and helped facilitate understanding between cultures with differing traditions and expectations. Alira observed, guided, and collaborated. Their partnership grew stronger with each interaction. Delegates from other civilizations began to take note. Humans had been underestimated for centuries, dismissed as impulsive or inexperienced. Now, their ingenuity, empathy, and adaptability were impossible to ignore. What had begun as a personal alliance became a symbol of potential for interstellar cooperation, an example of what could be achieved when courage met intelligence and respect. Stories of Daniel's actions during the trials spread quickly through the galaxy. Humans who had once been dismissed as young and unpredictable were now seen as capable of great insight and moral courage. Other civilizations reconsidered their assumptions, acknowledging that a species willing to step forward when others hesitated could influence outcomes in ways tradition alone could not. As the formal celebrations concluded, Daniel and Alira stood on the observation deck once more, overlooking the glowing city. Stars shimmered beyond the atmosphere, distant worlds waiting to be explored and understood.
Alira turned to Daniel. "The galaxy may not understand humans yet," she said, "but they will. They will see what I have seen. The courage, the intelligence, and the willingness to act even when others remain silent." Daniel nodded. "We will show them," he said, not with force or status, but with action, honesty, and cooperation. That is humanity's strength. The Queen approached, placing a hand on her daughter's shoulder once more. "Today has changed more than one life," she said. "It has changed perception, expectations, and the way many civilizations will view humans and Veyrani alike. Remember this day?" Daniel glanced at Alira. They had faced trials, skepticism, and the weight of centuries of tradition. Together, they had demonstrated that courage, partnership, and integrity could overcome doubt. The path ahead would be filled with challenges, but the foundation had been set. Across the galaxy, stories would spread of the human who stepped forward when no one else dared, the princess who chose understanding over fear, and the alliance that symbolized hope, respect, and the enduring power of courage. Daniel and Alira stood quietly, feeling the weight of history around them. Together they had proven something extraordinary. When courage meets integrity, when understanding meets intelligence, and when humans are given the chance to act, even the oldest traditions can be transformed, and even the most skeptical observers can be inspired. The galaxy was watching, and humanity, through Daniel's courage and Alira's trust, had shown that it was ready. The future had begun.